Someone has put googly eyes on them all.
We're at the eastern edge of the Nullarbor Plain. You know how I know that? Sign told me. We're at a spot called White Wells Cave, which is just off of the Air Highway on the Nullarbor. Yep, that's a cave, all right. For scale, I'd say that's probably about 10 meters down there. The cave's probably 3 across.
Wouldn't want to fall in.
No, you wouldn't be getting out in a hurry, would you?
Nope, you might not even live. Go to the Nullarbor Roadhouse. Here's the old Nullarbor Roadhouse. The old workshop. Terry's over at the pump.
We are sitting on the Nullarbor Plain, 157 kilometers east of the WA border. I've got myself a homemade whiskey. We've got ourselves a little bit of fire, a couple of steaks, which are looking perfect. Jill has got some noodles on the cooker. And the best thing of all, there are 0 bugs and the temperature is nice and cool, which is just awesome. And there's no rain. And apparently there might be a sunset behind me as well. It just keeps getting better.
We have 2 concerns, small ones. 1, mousy friend. 2, for Jill, what the hell are all these holes? And what comes out of them? Or goes into them, or both. They're huge. Are these more mice to come in our vehicle? Are they ants? What the hell? Are they giant spiders? I don't know, but I don't want to find out. And they're everywhere in the bajillions. Every direction I look. Holes and holes and holes of every shape and size. Wish me luck. Anything else you want to say, Ter?
Can't wait for tea.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Well, we found a little campsite on the Nullarbor Plains in the trees within the treeless plain.
And there's enough, you could fit 300 people camped here comfortably.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd never know one another's there. It was awesome.
It's huge. We loved it.
We drove like a couple of kilometers back from the road. You could still hear the trucks on the highway, but just. It's like amazing here, though.
That's what I'm saying. You can fit 300 people back here and not bother each other.
No. So we are back onto the Air Highway heading west. We are 157 kilometers from the WA border. Today we are going to do 597 on the bitumen, and then we're going to chuck a left and head back down to the coast.
Clear this way.
Okay, clear this way. Cruise control set to about 105. We're bucking a headwind, so we'll get awesome fuel economy.
Not.
Talk to you later. We've just taken one of these sort of dozens of tracks that come off the Air Highway and poke over to the Australian Bight just to have a look at the Bight. Take a bite out of the Bight. There are cars and caravans everywhere, so they're pretty easily accessible.
And parts of the highway come really close to the Bight.
Yeah, I'd say we're at this point less than a kilometer away from it.
Hopefully it's not too eroded under the edge of the cliff where we're parked. The view over the edge of the Great Australian Bight. It's a long way down. On the edge of the Bight, here's Droney. That's only how far it is to the highway. There's a car going by.
Okay, we're heading back to the air highway now after our little visit with the bight. This is what the whole Australian bight looks like along the coast here. It's this flat limestone that goes on and on and on forever. We are on a very short road to the Eucla Telegraph Station. Us and probably about 6 billion other tourists. But it's lunchtime. Well, it was lunch before we crossed the border. Now it's morning tea time. I was anticipating that this road would be corrugated to the shithouse because of all the traffic that's on it, but it's not. It's beautiful.
The old telegraph station at Eucla.
This stone station was built in 1898 and it ran through to 1927. The station's growth was largely due to WA's gold boom, because operators transmitted urgent messages from shareholders to Kalgoorlie, Boulder, and other gold fields in the Western Colony. Eucla was one of Australia's busiest stations outside the capital cities. It received 600 telegrams a day. Here's an interesting fact, and you've got to remember this thing was in operation when it started before Federation. So the telegraph station was believed to straddle the WA and South Australia border. So there was a wooden partition dividing the workers into their respective states, South Australia and WA, and there were border holes for the operators to pass through transcribed messages. And the reason for that was that WA used the International Morse code and South Australia used the American Morse code. So these two codes had to be transcribed. This is unbelievable looking at it now.
Hello!
Despite the fact that this building was pretty impressive, we do come across one that is in much better condition and much larger.
There's the track to the jetty.
That's coming to you in a future episode. We are traveling to the old abandoned Eucla jetty, apparently. There it is, way over there. Missed it by that much. Well, here's our lunch spot, just out beside the Eucla jetty. And there's the jetty out there in the background. I'm going to take a walk over there and check it out. Apparently this jetty was built in 1887 and they used it to ferry supplies to the Eucla Telegraph Station from Albany. I don't know when this thing was then disused or stopped being used, but they could actually dock steamships as well as sailing vessels here. I'm hoping the audio's not too bad here because it's blowing a gale. I do have a dead cat on the microphone, but still, it is howling. You can see these beaches are all full of that seaweed. The only thing docking on this jetty now are the resident seabirds. Just had lunch at the Eucla jetty and now we're making our way back to the old telegraph station and then back out to Eucla and continue to head west. We've got another 500 kilometers on the bitumen today before we start to drop down into the parks and wildlife areas and wildlife reserves, whatever you want to call them, that are dotted along the coast. We've only been in WA for all of 10 kilometers and it's already proving to be a really big state. The distances are just so bloody vast. Now I think we got the squeezy bits between the trees. There's the old telegraph station there. Slowly getting sucked up by the sand.
It is. Looked like a really nice building at one time.
It really did, yeah. That's it. We're at the parking lot now with all the caravans and motorhomes and everybody else. We are coming up to a runway on the air highway just west of Eucla, and this is a Royal Flying Doctor Service emergency landing runway.
It operates solely through donations.
Yeah, exactly. And here is the end of our runway. Or the beginning, depending on which way you're coming. We've just left the air highway at a small roadhouse called, what was
Kaiguna.
that? Kaiguna Roadhouse. And we're traveling due south towards the Great Australian Bight. Pick up the Overland Telegraph line and continue heading west on the OTL. We're going through these little savanna areas. Jill said, rightly so, you wouldn't be surprised if a lion jumped out of the grass at you.
And then you go back into the bush again.
In the bush, yeah.
Rocky bush.
It's crazy.
It's really weird. Driving through grassy, sort of tussocked, rocky area with tons of dead trees. A really big fire, hot fire must have come through, and just must have been enough water for them to recover, or they were already really stressed.
Well, it's morning at our Nuytsland camp. How do you pronounce that?
I don't know. I can't talk Aussie. Nuit.
Nuit. I think it's Dutch, actually.
Yeah, N-U-Y-T, but I don't speak Dutch, so.
No. And today we're going to be heading off on the OTL, and we're heading towards Bilbunya Dunes, which is very exciting. I've had that spot in my flagged to-do list for a long, long time. According to our map, we are going to hit the Overland Telegraph line any moment now. Now we're going to be traveling west down that line, but my understanding is you can pretty much travel that entire distance from South Australia to WA on that particular line. We did a small section of it in South Australia, and we're going to obviously be doing a larger section of it here in WA. Nuytsland? Maybe that's how you pronounce that.
Yeah.
Toolinna Cove, that's us. This track basically follows the old telegraph line for the entire breadth of the continent. I'm guessing, but I would think that as the further west we get, the more opened up this track will get as more and more people use it. We're still out at one of the extremities, so I wouldn't imagine there's a whole lot of traffic that uses this.
I don't know. There's little, it's in bloom. It's very pretty. It's like someone threw a fishing net over it or something.
It is. Maybe the stems photosynthesize, not the leaves.
I don't know.
Because these are the leaves off the tree itself. Mm-hmm. Oh, and look.
These nuts.
Well, we've been traveling along the Overland Telegraph line now for, we'll be coming up on an hour. And Jill has been doing some commentary for us because it's such a wide and varied scenery. So I'll hand it over to Jill and she can tell you what we found.
Rocks, trees, rocks, mud puddle, rocks, tree, rocks, stick, wire, mud puddle, wire.
So I think you can get the idea that at this point in time, the track has offered up a variety of scenery. It is cool to see the wire, the Overland Telegraph line running down the length of the track. That is a bit of the Overland Telegraph wire. Hard to believe that a group of men laid this down, back in the 1880s? And here it is, still here. We got a break in the transmission, hon. You know, I look at that bit of wire and I think at some point in time, somebody had to have made a decision to make a communication pathway between east and west coast of Australia. Somewhere the ore for this steel was mined. Somewhere this wire was manufactured. Somehow it was transported out here and someone strung it up between poles. Just crazy to think of all of those logistics that had to go to put this here, now laying out in the dirt. I wonder what important communications went down that wire in the day.
Anything and everything.
According to our map, we're going to reach the remains of a pole with an insulator and a bolt on it in about half a kilometer or so. Keep an eye out for that, unless somebody's souvenir hunter has scabbed it. Well, this is the first telegraph pole that we have found out here, and I can understand why now. This sucker's been charred, obviously, and I'd say that the majority of the other ones have all burnt long ago. Haven't seen any steel poles, but these are the original wooden ones, and they be gonzo. Especially when you get a fire through that torches a place like it has here. An old broken insulator. And that must have been the bit of wire that tied the insulator onto the pole. Well, this particular track is not a difficult track from a four-wheel driving point of view. The ground's reasonably flat. You're just contending with rocky sections and then dusty or muddy sections, depending on whether you've had some inclement weather. But it takes all of your concentration to look out for those tire stabbers. Either sharp rocks or sharp sticks. And of course, it's the ones that you don't see that are the ones that get you. So you got to concentrate as much as you can so that you have as few don't sees as possible.
Terry had a big don't see a couple kilometers ago. He stopped to get a giant stick off of the track, and as he's touched the branch, a big brown snake has darted out and taken off.
Yeah, that was a brown pants moment for probably both of us. Yeah, so we can keep those sorts of wildlife counters down to a minimum. That would be good. Dope. Snake stick.
Yes.
Okay, I don't want any critters underneath that snake or underneath that stick, please.
No, once was enough. Terry drives in his bare feet. He's got those giant sand groper thongs on, and then he has to put his shoes back on every time, and it takes 1,000 years.
Are you kidding me? We're getting a nice coating of mud on the truck now to add to our dust and sand. I guess we got the trifecta, hey? That's the crap we're dealing with at the moment. Look how blocked up that guard is. Ew, nasty.
Well, when we get to Esperance, hopefully there's a car wash to wash off the mud, salt, sand, and dust.
Yes. What do they call that? A quinella?
Quinella?
It's more than a trifecta. I don't know anything about horses, other than they make good glue.
Terry.
That's right. I'm not meant to say that.
No, animal lovers will report you on Facebook.
Yes. And if you're averse to paint scratches and pinstripes on your car, don't come out here either, because you will get pinstripes. There is no avoiding.
I'm not a fan of the rocks. I just think of them, the wear and tear on the tires is horrible.
Here's a tight little section. Well, we've been traveling now for, what do we got, 3 hours since we left camp?
Yes.
And we have done a total of about 40 kilometers. So we're averaging 20 kilometers an hour.
No.
No.
Like,
Like 13 kilometers an hour. 13.33 kilometers an hour. We've kind of entered a different area. I'm sure it doesn't appear different on the screen, but it looks different to us. It's got hills, and we haven't had hills yet. It's all been pretty relatively flat. Oh, a bustard.
wow.
Cool.
That was cool. He's landing. There it is.
And after a few hours in the car, we have approached or have made it to the Toolinna Cove. Now, apparently the reason that this is a place on the map is because this is the only break in the cliffs for 500 kilometers in either direction. So when the Overland Telegraph crews needed supplies, this was the only spot they could bring supplies up for 500 kilometers in either direction. Now, I still understand that it wasn't easy because you got a cliff to winch it up and all the rest of it, but at least it was a little bit of a break. And we are entering a cliff risk area. No dying. Well, this little hole drilled here looks like it might have been a spot where some sort of a pole or something was put there for the winching. And there is Toolinna Cove. This tiny little bloody cove. And I'll tell you, those cliffs don't seem any much smaller than the ones out on the Nullarbor. Far out. That is huge. That's got to be at least 100 meters. Geez, that would have been hard yakka getting the equipment up here. And there's the tiniest of beaches down there. Stunning, stunning bit of coastline though. We are going to take it's only a short little 2-kilometer loop that runs along the coast. This is a lot slower through here. I'm now in low range. It's a rocky and rolly, but it's a change of scenery from the OTL, which is nice.
My Akubra hat strap is clacking on the window.
If we were in our Hilux, our heads would be clacking on the window.
And together.
And together.
Our old Hilux many decades ago.
Yeah. Well, no doubt you can see that the shadows are a little bit longer than they were when I last shot a little bit of a clip or an update. We've been
because our souls have died.
We've been on the road for 8 hours. And we've done 110 kilometers so far on, I think, what is safe to say is probably the shittiest four-wheel drive track I've ever been on. You're all stuck in this scrub, so you don't have any views. So would I recommend this track? We can say that we've done it. We're only about 20 kilometers from the Bilbunya Dunes, which was a bucket list item. There's only one way to get in there, and that's on this track. So there is that. But there are shorter ways into the Dune field than the way that we took as well. So anyway, back to the question, would I recommend this? Listen, if you're using the track to get to somewhere, then yes, you've got to use the track to get there. If you're coming out here to drive the track, you got to be pretty committed.
Will we be doing it again?
No, I wouldn't come out here to drive the track. I would come out here to get to a destination and use the track to do that, but no, I wouldn't come out here to say that I drove the Overland Telegraph line from east to west.
On a positive note, our pork roast is smelling really good in the travel buddy.
It is. And all those internal organs that got jostled around, yesterday or the day before, I think they're
No, that was today. It just was a really long day.
Was that today?
Yes, that was today.
Okay, well, maybe they're jostled back into place now. But you know what? We're not sitting in an office anywhere. We're out living life, which is awesome. Well, we're approaching the Wiley Scarp, which is where the plateau, which we're riding upon, drops down to the dune field below. Apparently it used to be a challenging track here, but they've since put a beltway down on it, so that makes it a whole lot easier. Nobody's been here for a little while. It's a bit duned over. Oh, wow. Does that ever look cool? Woo-wee. Likey. All right, Hannah, drop it into low range. Yeah, there's the belts. Yeah, I could see this being a monster of a climb without these belts here. Wow. I would have taken no prisoners.
Oh, people be getting stuck left, right, and center.
Yeah, this is steep, especially on sand. Have a look at those June fields out in the distance. Hope the GoPro can pick this up because we're traveling directly into the sun, but those big sucker dunes in front of us are impressive. Okay, I can't speak for Jill, but for me, that shit track that we took in, this has made it all worthwhile. It is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. I don't think we're going to be running to the top of those ones, huh?
No, those are intimidating. I think all the other ones we've been on look like baby little ant nests.
Exactly. Oh, those look like snowdrifts.
Mm-hmm. It does.
It's crazy. Yeah, I'm gonna go taste that.
Okay.
It's fresh water, so it must be rainwater, eh?
I think so. Shit. Blunk.
Yeah, should have walked it.